All right, let's dive into a historical event that literally changed the world. And I mean everything, right down to what's on your dinner plate tonight. We're talking about the Columbian Exchange.
Okay, think about this for a second. When you picture Italian food, you think tomatoes, right? Or amazing coffee from Colombia, or incredible Swiss chocolate. I mean, these things are iconic to those places. But what if I told you that's not where they came from at all?
Yep, that's right. Not a single one of those things is native to Europe or South America. Their journey, and the journey of so many other things, all stems from this gigantic global reshuffling that started way back in 1492.
So to really get how this happened, we've got to unpack the one idea that basically turned your dinner into a map of the entire world.
It's called the Columbian Exchange. And listen, this wasn't just a simple trade. It was this massive, continuous movement of life itself across the Atlantic Ocean. For the first time ever, it connected two halves of the planet that had been biologically separate for thousands and thousands of years.
So what exactly was getting swapped in this great global exchange? Let's break it down, because some of this stuff is going to surprise you.
So you've got two teams, basically. On one side, you have the Old World. That's Europe, Africa, and Asia, all connected. And on the other, the New World, North and South America. For millennia, they grew up in almost total isolation from each other. And then, all of a sudden, the floodgates just burst open.
The stuff that came from the New World totally changed the Old World. I mean, take the potato. It could grow almost anywhere, even in bad soil, and produced way more calories than wheat. This one vegetable fueled a massive population explosion across Europe, especially in places like Ireland. Then you've got corn, or maize, which became essential food for livestock. And of course, tomatoes. They completely reinvented cooking from Italy to India.
And of course, the traffic went both ways. Wheat and rice came over to the Americas, sure, but the real game changers were sugar and coffee. These two crops created enormous plantation economies. We're talking about industries that drove global trade and completely transformed the land and the labor markets of the New World for centuries.
And it wasn't just plants. The animals brought over from the Old World were absolutely revolutionary. You know, cattle and pigs became new, steady sources of food. But the horse changed everything in the Americas. It totally altered how people hunted, traveled, and even fought wars, especially for the indigenous peoples on the Great Plains, who became some of the most skilled riders the world has ever seen.
But, and this is a huge but, this whole exchange had a really dark side. Because along with the plants and animals, there were these invisible travelers, these stowaways, that brought with them absolutely catastrophic results.
See, people in the Old World had been living alongside their farm animals for thousands of years. Over time, they'd built up immunities to all sorts of diseases that jumped from animals to humans. But the people of the New World had never been exposed to these germs, so when Europeans arrived, they brought diseases with them, and the most devastating of all was smallpox.
What happened next was, well, it's arguably the single greatest population disaster in all of human history. With absolutely no natural immunity, indigenous communities were just wiped out by these new diseases. It led to the collapse of entire societies on a scale that's hard to even wrap your head around.
This really helps us see the exchange in two totally different ways. You have the things people wanted to happen, and then the devastating things that they never planned for. Let's look at that a little closer.
So the intentional results were mostly about money. Planting new crops that would sell, bringing over livestock for farming, creating new global trade routes. But the unintentional consequences, they were horrific. The terrifying spread of disease, the collapse of entire civilizations, and even the introduction of things like rats that completely wrecked local ecosystems.
So when you put it all together, the good, the bad, the intentional, and the accidental, you get a planet that was fundamentally and permanently changed forever by this process.
And remember, this wasn't an overnight thing. It was like a slow-motion revolution that played out over hundreds of years. The first contact in 1492 was just the spark. The 1500s is when the big transfer really got going, and by the 1700s, you could see the full impact, changing populations and economies all across the globe.
At the end of the day, the Columbian Exchange basically stitched the world together into one single biological and economic system for the very first time. There was absolutely no going back.
Seriously, the food on your plate, the coffee in your cup, the very makeup of our societies and our environment, so much of it is a direct result of this massive, world-changing exchange. It really did remake everything.
And that kind of leaves us with a final question to chew on. Our world today is more connected than it has ever been, and the Columbian Exchange is this powerful lesson that when you move people and products around the globe, other things, ideas, diseases, environmental changes, they always come along for the ride. So it makes you wonder, in our super-fast modern global exchange, what are the unseen travelers that we might not be seeing?